It's illegal to acquire heroin. It's illegal to shoot up heroin. So, can you see that the fact that those things are illegal hasn't stopped it from happening?
Free Talk Live.
Let's go to the phones, to the fun. We'll start out with Sarah in New Mexico. Sarah, you're on Free Talk Live.
Yes, I just wanted to ask you, how come you're so much in favor of, let's say, an uncle that has a background check? I mean, he can own and buy guns, and then he hands it out to his nephews.
Mm-hmm.
One breaks into a house, the other one deals drugs, and the other one steals cars, and they all have his guns.
So three nephews, let's call them Huey, Dewey, and Louie. Okay, go ahead.
Well, but this is what the New Mexico culture, and that's why we have the gun control law. You just can't, just because you're a cousin or you're a nephew or somebody's an uncle, just because your family has guns, your dad has guns, all of the sons get guns without proper criminal check.
Okay, so what you're saying is you want to have restrictions on family members' ability to just simply give a gun to their loved ones.
Right, and they say, well, he sold it to me for $50. But I mean, what's the? That's improper. The new law is that if you're going to purchase a gun, you have to pass a stricter law instead of just your family members just selling it to you. And then the thing is, that's what's going on here in New Mexico.
Do you think that, Sarah, that having more gun control laws will stop psychos from getting guns?
Well, of course. I believe in it. Of course. It's the harder to get, the harder that they're going to use
Okay,
it.
hold on. Now, you live in a welfare house, right?
Well, I mean, Section 8. It's called Section 8 subsidized.
Yeah. Same thing. So, now, do you ever see anybody around the welfare community doing drugs?
Well, I mean, I hear about it.
You've heard about it.
I never seen them.
You never
do
seen it?
I hear about it.
You ever seen any, like, heroin needles in the streets or anything like that?
Well, yeah, I've seen them laying around all over the place.
Yeah, now wait a minute. Now that's illegal.
Highly illegal.
It's illegal to acquire heroin. It's illegal to shoot up heroin. So can you see that the fact that those things are illegal hasn't stopped it from happening?
Right.
Okay, so therefore, if the government cannot stop people from buying and using drugs, despite spending billions of dollars and countless hours of hours cracking down on these activities, that there's still people out there shooting up heroin right now as we speak. Can you understand that the same thing can apply to guns, where no matter how many rules and restrictions you put on these guns, that a psycho nut job who wants to go shoot somebody up, shoot up an office or something like that, is going to get the guns that they want?
Well, I do think that the harder it is, the better, the stricter it is, the less crime they're going to commit with those guns. And
really?
So
have you heard about Chicago?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Chicago has one of the highest rates of murder and violent crime in the United States. Am I right about that?
I suppose. I hear so.
Yeah. Do you understand that guns are basically prohibited in Chicago? You essentially cannot legally buy a gun unless you're like a Brinks truck, security professional and you've got all the right paperwork in order.
Right.
Okay. So how is it that a city where it's very difficult, like super ultra difficult to buy a gun,
legally at least,
how is it that same city has a dramatically high violent crime rate? People are getting shot to death in Chicago.
They probably do the same thing that they do here. Just somebody with a good record could buy their own gun.
No, it's not like that. It's not like New Mexico where there's even some semblance of freedom about purchasing a gun in Chicago. Some of these big cities like New York City and Chicago, some of the most restrictive places as far as buying a gun is concerned. But yet you still have gang members shooting each other. That doesn't make sense, does it, Sarah?
They have illegal illegal guns. But you know something? Look,
Oh, it's illegal. Oh, so they've got illegal guns. So what you've just
admitted that you didn't solve your problem.
Right. What you've just admitted, Sarah, is that by creating all these rules and restrictions, you are driving the purchase and possession of guns into the black market, making them illegal guns, meaning that the person who wants to buy that gun, for whatever reason, has to be willing to commit a crime to do so, which to their mind is fine because they're going to use the gun in a crime anyway. Right, so if your goal is to get a gun to commit murder or to rob a store or whatever,
the legal guns are not interesting to people who with criminal intent in the first place
right.
because they're tracked.
Exactly.
Right? So really, what you want is I forget what they call them exactly, but they're
you don't want a serial number. You don't want a record.
There's a certain name for that type of a weapon.
Oh, we got Matt Roach in the studio
Matt.
here.
It's a burner.
A burner,
yeah.
Like a burner phone, but a burner gun.
So you want a burner gun. I think there's still a ghost gun, I think is also another name for it too.
That's the thing where you can like basically 3D print your own gun, essentially, kind of.
No, I don't. I think there's something similar in name as what you're talking about for 3D printing, but the ghost gun is I think a term that's used to describe a gun that doesn't have the serial number.
Yeah. Okay, could be.
So anyway, it can't be traced. Anyway, so the point that I'm trying to make is that there is a market for these ghost guns, okay, that are not tracked by the criminals.
I'd pay more for it. Wouldn't you?
Right. The guns that have a serial number are you don't pay as much for them. So the idea
But Illinois, Chicago, they have to try something else. But why are you?
What are they going to try?
Wait.
What are they going to try? What else could they possibly do?
Well, I have no idea. But you know what? I'm talking about New Mexico and our law. And our
She's talking about New Mexico where they haven't tried everything they've already tried in Chicago, so they need to try the things they've already tried in Chicago that haven't worked.
Right. What she's proposing is to try the things that don't work in Chicago.
Right.
It just doesn't make any sense.
Isn't New Mexico one of the most heavily armed states in the country?
New Mexico?
Per capita?
Really?
Yeah. And they also have one of the lowest violent crime rates, just like New Hampshire, and we're also one of the most heavily armed states in the country.
Well, the thing is, our voters have voted all the legislature that are for gun control. So you know what? If all the voters that wanted freedom of gun ownership, they should have come out and voted against them. So why are they crying and complaining about it now?
You're persecuting a minority group here. When the majority doesn't. When the majority they're not part of that gun ownership club. They don't understand guns to begin with. So you're basically you've got a small group of people who are influencing a larger group of people who don't know anything about guns, and it seems reasonable because they don't know anything about guns. That's how you end up with these types of situations.
And they apparently don't know anything about prohibition either.
Right. And somebody has an interest in banning these guns, right? It's in many cases it's police departments and it's busybodies and it's what do we have? I want to say police industrial complex, not the police industrial complex.
There is such a thing. I mean, I'm not sure
prison industrial complex.
Okay.
Sorry.
Basically the same thing.
Right. They need more people coming into their private prisons because they're making money off of it. So it's in their interests to promote this kind of stuff. It's not being promoted because they want to save lives because it's not going to save lives. It might put more people in prison, but those people get released and you still have the same problem.
Sarah, thank you for the call tonight, and we got big news for our listeners in Albuquerque starting on Monday. I don't want to spoil the big news, but it's going to be, I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So if you're in Albuquerque and listening to us on KABQ AM there, you may have to tune in at a different time, and it's going to be a good move for Free Talk Live starting Monday. That's all I'll say right now. But we'll let you know once that happens. Thank you, Sarah, for the call tonight. Your efforts are pointless because no matter what restrictions you put on things people want, there are always those who are willing to flout the law. They're willing to just do whatever it is that they need to do to acquire the guns that they want to acquire because they want to commit a crime with them. And they're willing to pay more to do it, and they're willing to jump through the extra hoops because they don't want it to be traced. We go to Matthew. He's in Louisiana, listening online via the TuneIn app. Go ahead, Matthew.
Yeah, I don't know if Auntie Sarah realizes how when you pass these gun control bills, it doesn't always go the way you think it's going to go.
No.
Like in Washington State, a bunch of sheriffs are like, no, we're not going to enforce this.
Oh, yeah, she was mad about that the last time she called in.
Right, and then in Connecticut, all the people who were supposed to register their scary black rifles, well, no, they didn't. It was like about 15% compliance, which was high.
Yeah.
In New Jersey, it's still about like 1% compliance with the magazine ban.
So what you're pointing out here is even though these are laws that the government has put into place in these states, that even the people are just ignoring them.
The law abiding, I mean, generally
purportedly law abiding
yeah. For the most part, or at least the people who are not committing violent acts.
Right. The people who consider themselves law abiding have decided, well, there are some laws that they won't abide by. And I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Well, I think it makes people very suspicious as to why the government wants, to reduce their abilities to be armed.
Free Talk Live. Listen live 7 to 10 p.m. Eastern or grab the podcast. It's all at freetalklive.com.